So any chance they had of generating much offense the rest of the way seems to be gone. They did score 24 points in the loss at Iowa, but the new quarterback, Ethan Grunkemeyer, who is coincidentally from Olentangy High School right outside Columbus, redshirt freshman, he only threw for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was the running back, Katron Allen, who really came through big for them and kept them in that game at Iowa with like 140 yards rushing. So they're going against the number 1 defense in the country at Ohio Stadium, and it does not bode well for young Mr. Grunkemeyer or the Nittany Lions as they will head over here on Friday and get ready to play the Buckeyes. A 20.5-point underdog is what Penn State is. It went from being basically a pick-em type game in the preseason to hard to imagine any way Penn State could win this game this time around.
Yeah, they did give it a shot at Kinnick, although they had some fortuitous bounces, a blocked field goal that pretty much just landed right in the guy's lap for a 50-yard touchdown return on the last play of the first half, and a couple interceptions that were deflected and so forth. But anyway, Tony, things change quickly in college football. 1 week, you can be 1 play away from defeating one of the best teams in the country to break through with a huge top 5 win, and 2 weeks later, coach fired, season over, shut it down.
Well, this 4-game losing streak that Penn State is on, the difference at the end of regulation in those 4 games has been 7 points. The complete total difference has been 7 points, to give you an idea of how close Penn State is to still having James Franklin and still being a ranked team. But again, let's not forget, this is the unanimous Big Ten preseason favorite. We should never forget that. We should never let anybody forget that so many people, so many experts viewed this Penn State program as being the pinnacle of the Big Ten this season. And that did not go well for anybody. And so, you mentioned the blocked field goal last week. It's even worse than that. That was a 66-yard field goal attempt that was blocked and returned for just a 35-yard touchdown. That's how far that kick was, that it was only returned 35 yards for a touchdown. And that was a very John L. Smith kind of thing to do. And Kirk Ferentz took ownership of that. And yeah, you watch that game, and I'm one of the unfortunate few that went back and watched it to see what this Penn State offense is. And they have no passing game with Grunkemeyer. Now, this was his first real action all season, and first career start. Has not gotten to play much because Penn State has not been good enough to allow a backup quarterback in. And Terry Smith, their interim head coach, is imploring Andy Kotelnicki to throw the ball downfield, get some downfield shots in this game, because the East-West isn't going to cut it. They need to find some big shots, and they don't really have the offense to get that done either, which is unfortunate. This is not going to be a good scene for Ethan Grunkemeyer, even though he did finally get, a couple weeks of practice where he is the starter.
I checked the defensive rankings this week. Iowa is number 2 in the nation in total defense, and Ohio State's number 1. And those are his first 2 assignments. And then he's got Indiana to deal with, and they've played pretty well this season. So,
yeah, somebody said they're having a really good year there in Indiana.
Yeah, somebody's noticed here recently.
Somebody said that. I don't know who it was, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of the marquee games in the conference, and still draws the big noon kickoff, as it not necessarily should, but it's the
who else is it going to be?
They're going to bring the eyeballs.
I mean, who else is it going to be?
Nebraska, but
they're playing on the West Coast, so
I think it's at Nebraska.
I think it's at Nebraska.
Oh, it's at Nebraska. I'm sorry.
That's
But
why
still,
it had a chance to be this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I give him credit for not having a passing attack. Katron Allen, as I just looked it up here, did rush for 145 yards. It took him 28 carries, so that's, not necessarily a great average per carry, but they kind of just chipped away. And he had 2 touchdowns. Nicholas Singleton has been kind of marginalized here.
Yeah.
It's clearly Katron Allen is the lead back. Singleton only had 6 carries for 15 yards. They brought in some promising wide receivers in the portal because that was kind of their Achilles heel, that nobody for Drew Aller to throw to. But, Grunkemiller, 15 of 28, 93 yards, 2 interceptions in his first outing, obviously. So, to me, I don't. I'm wrestling. I said this on our Bucknuts Morning 5 radio show today. My 2 scores that I'm thinking about are 31-13, which would not be a cover, or 34-10, which would be. So I'm kind of, and then I just go back to how dominant Ohio State was in the last 2 games against Illinois and Wisconsin, just getting out early and just being so dominant that hardly giving the opponent a chance to breathe and putting them away early. And we could very well see that. I mean, it could be 17-0 at the end of the first quarter in this game, or it could be 3-3. I mean, it's a hard game to reconcile because you believe in Penn State's defense, but if Penn State can't move the ball at all, and nobody really has against Ohio State, only one team has scored double digits, and that was Illinois in 7 games. I'm left with, like, how does Penn State generate any offense if that's going to be their passing attack? I don't know how it happens.
So Tony, again, you took it in. I took in like the 30 play highlight package, and it's difficult to get a feel for that as they cut off the play as soon as the play is over, and you don't get any kind of perspective on the context. But you've got a highly touted kid at quarterback, albeit super inexperienced, but he was pretty highly ranked coming out of high school, and he's been in the program for 2 years. And they bring in Trevor Pena from Syracuse, and I can't think of Ross's first name from Troy, and Kyron Hudson from USC, and they had a offensive line situation coming into the season where they had 9 of their 10 2 deep coming back. They were stacked there. So as you assess the attempt at trying to mount a passing game, where is the blame to be assessed?
Well, the blame, you mentioned that Grunkemeyer is the high school accolades. I mean, he's just unprepared. Like Lincoln Kienholz, as a true freshman against Missouri, just was not capable. And this is not entirely his fault. He's in a very bad situation. He could not handle the blitz when Iowa absolutely needed to stop. They'd blitz and he'd get stopped. Not that letting him throw for 6 yards or 4 yards on a given drive is like that's just as good as a stop because they're not going anywhere. So the passing game, they went deep twice in the second half because I'm sure at halftime Terry Smith is like, we need to go deep. We need to try something. And so the first drive of the third quarter, they went deep, no avail. They did it again later in the second half, did not complete the pass. So they tried it twice in the second half. I'm going to assume they're going to open up pretty quickly with that at some point. They'd love to get the running game going for some play action with Katron Allen. The running game has been pretty hit and miss for opponents against Ohio State. Sometimes it gets going a little bit, but it doesn't get sustained. So they're going to try some things. And the other thing with this offense, that they're going to have double passes. They're going to have halfback options. Like they're going to try whatever they can to make big plays. And Ohio State's very, very disciplined. So as long as they're engaged, I'm seeing in terms of like picking a score, like I don't know that Penn State scores more than 10, and I think 10 might be a lot. Unless Grunkemeyer has grown a lot in these 2 weeks since that Iowa game. Because if it's that Penn State offense, you might get 7. I don't see you scoring twice without, a mistake from Ohio State.
Well, I think it's safe in saying this is the biggest wild card team in the country. Clemson might be another, but they still have their head coach. They still have their program intact, and they're also playing Boston College and North Carolina every week. And they're still figuring out ways to lose those games. where Penn State, has to line up against Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana in consecutive games. But the talent is still there. It must be bought in to some degree for this team to come within 1 point of Iowa. And of course, Iowa plays close games against everyone until, I guess, recently they started to blow some teams out. So they didn't do that to Penn State. So at least maybe, I don't know if that was a one-shot deal where they figured, okay, we're going to give it a go. This, win one for the new coach we like, who's been around forever. Or they can sustain this for a season, or if they get hit on the chin, like Steve outlines, is a huge possibility, 17-0, that they completely implode, or, what's left in this team is anybody's guess.
Yeah, I'm again kind of still trying to reconcile in my mind, how does Penn State stay in this game for 4 quarters? And I don't think they can, just without generating much offense. And Ohio State's run defense has been really, really good. I got the national rankings here. Rushing defense, 8th in the country, 85.6. Yet last week, Iowa is right in that same realm, giving up about 89 yards per game rushing, and they gave up like 150 or 160 to a team that could not throw the ball. So I don't know what that means. I don't know. To me, if you had a team that is not capable of throwing the ball, wouldn't you just man up outside and put 7.5 men in the box? I mean, isn't that what you would do? I guess I'm confused. Why they gave up so many yards rushing. Probably just kept it, probably said, you may have 2 or 3 yards or 4 yards rushing the football. That's fine. We are not going to give up the big play, obviously, to let you get back in this game. So it was kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts, as opposed to one big, rock over the head with a 40-yard touchdown pass or something. So Penn State took what Iowa was giving them, I presume, and that was, 3 and 4 yard chunks. And that's how those numbers stacked on top of one another eventually, I guess. But I just don't know how they do it against Ohio State. Caden McDonald is just a monster. Coach Day referred to him as a potential game wrecker yesterday. And, defensive tackle for Ohio State, he's having a great year. Arvell Reese, everybody has him going to the NFL in the first round right now. At linebacker, Sonny Styles has been pretty solid. And then Caleb Downs as well at safety. He's kind of like the Maytag repairman back there, just, waiting for things to go wrong, and they never do. So, it is it's been a lot of fun to watch Ohio State play defense. I'll say that. And they probably lead the country in 3 and outs, I would think, or they're near the top, I would think.
Penn State led that game 21-10, and they still found a way to lose. I think there's something to be said for that. It is on the road. Mark Gronowski had a couple of long runs in there, which you're not going to get from Julian Sayin. So, we would not that we would ever compare Iowa's offense to Ohio State's offense, but I could see a 17-7 final that is as much of a blowout as a 42-7 thing would be, just because Ohio State has no reason to score more than 7 points. And once they get to 10, they know this game is over type of thing. And they kind of shut it down a little bit. But also, I mean, it is Jim Knowles. So, there are going to be a lot of people on the Ohio State sideline that want to put some points on the board and say hello to the former defensive coordinator. And, they are coming off of a bye week. I did look back on this is the 8 games under Ryan Day as head coach where Ohio State is coming off of a bye week. They are 8-0. They are winning those games by an average score of 46-11.